So these are the wheels and tires that we picked out for the C60. What's up guys, welcome back to another episode of Rustomod. We are back on the C60 Silverado swap and we are getting some stuff done on this thing, and I am really excited for today's episode because we are going to completely transform the look of the C60. When I first envisioned the C60, this is exactly what I wanted to do to it, and I think it's going to turn out awesome. But if you guys missed the whole build series on the C60, I'll link it up here so you can see all the episodes. But let me tell you a little bit about the truck that we're building behind me. So we started with a 1966 Chevy C60 dump truck, and I really wanted to get that thing on the road. It had such a cool look to it. But unfortunately, in the current state that it was in, it just needed a ton of work. And so what I decided to do was find a cheap Silverado and yank the cab off of the C60, yank the cab off of the Silverado, and put our awesome classic looking Chevy cab on top of our modern Silverado chassis. So that way this thing could turnkey and you could drive it every day just like a modern Silverado, but it has the awesome look of the C60. So that's what we've done for this build. In the last few episodes, we got the cab mounted to the chassis, we got our radiator in there, we got our steering figured out, and in the last episode, we actually cleaned up our engine bay, mounted our front bumper, and tried to tie in this thing to make it look really nice. So in this episode, we're gonna continue on that path and try to upgrade some stuff to make this thing look as cool as it can. So that's what we're gonna do in today's episode. We finally found some wheels and tires that are gonna transform the entire look of this build. But before we do that, I have some things that I have to tackle first. So I was really excited to jack the C60 up and try to put on my new wheels and tires. I jacked the thing up and then I found this. Not good. It looks like we need ball joints and a bunch of other suspension upgrades to actually make this thing drive pretty decent. And I don't want to put really nice wheels on a worn out suspension. So let me show you guys a solution that we've came up with. So since our C60 is on a modern Silverado chassis, we can go ahead and buy all modern Silverado parts to be able to upgrade it with. So that's exactly what we did. I wanted to do ball joints and all the suspension upgrades on this, so that way it really rides like a modern truck. But in order to do that, I had to find all these suspension parts. So what I did was I went to Max Heating Rods, and they have an entire kit that comes with upper control arms, lower control arms, tie rods, ball joints, all the stuff you need to upgrade your Silverado. So if you guys are doing a swap like this, this is a great kit to get to upgrade your suspension on your truck. Or if you just have a Silverado at home and you want to upgrade the suspension, this is also a great kit to get. So I was just going to do ball joints, but I figured why not just get everything and it will be done and we don't have to mess with it or worry about it ever again. But while I figured if we're also there, what we should do is probably just do wheel bearings and all that stuff at the same time, so that way the entire suspension is done and we don't have to worry about it. We can drive this thing anywhere and it should be able to last us. So what I did was I actually grabbed some new front knuckles and some new wheel bearings, so that way everything is brand new on this truck. So I think this is the best route because who knows, this truck has 200,000 miles on it. The suspension also has 200,000 miles on it. Might as well upgrade it while we're there. So we're going to tackle all this stuff today, but if you guys are looking for this kit or if you're looking for anything from Max Heating Rods, I have a discount code linked below so you can check that out and save some money on your order. So that's what we're going to do in this episode. We're going to try to upgrade the C60 suspension, and then we can go ahead and try to see our new wheels and tires that we got for this build. So you can kind of see how crusty the suspension is and why I want to replace it. So I'm just going to start by ripping all this stuff out. I'm going to pull off the upper control arm, pull off the tie rod, pull off the sway bar, pull off my caliper and the lower control arm, and just try to pull this whole thing out as one assembly. That way I can do as little ball joints as possible, and then we can go ahead and assemble our new stuff and put it right back in. All right, so we got almost all the suspension out. I still got to do the driver's side, but not too bad. Some of the bolts are pretty rusted, but now we can go ahead and try to clean up the frame a little bit where I couldn't paint before. Might as well do that now, so that way it can dry before we put our new suspension in there. So let me go do the driver's side real quick, and then we can go ahead and assemble all that new stuff that we have to go in this thing. Probably could use some new shocks too. These ones are pretty crusty. All right, it's a new day and we got all of our suspension yanked out of there. And now I'm gonna work on putting it all back together. So trying to figure out the best way to really get this stuff back in there, because I'm gonna have to compress that spring down to be able to get the lower control arm back on. And really the only thing that's holding the spring in place is the shock absorber. So if you saw, the shocks are pretty rusted. I went ahead and got some new ones, but I think the best way to do it is try to just put the lower control arm in with the shock, push the spring up with the jack, and then I can tighten that up. And then we can go ahead and assemble the upper control arm and the knuckle. All right, well, I got the hard part done. I got the spring in there. It was a little difficult to get the spring set in the bottom control arm, but I got it in there. Definitely that shock was the way to go. Tighten that up, put the shock on. So now I can go ahead and assemble the wheel hubs, reattach the sway bar, the rack and pinion. I think I'm just gonna change the entire thing. It looks like it's pretty worn out, and I wanna just play it safe. So I'm not gonna go and replace the tie rods yet, because I'll probably just replace the entire thing. And we can hook those up temporarily so we can still steer it around, and that should be it on this whole front suspension kit. I got that upper control arm in there. Just so you guys know, if you guys are doing this at home, you want to mark where these upper control arms were previously to make sure your alignment is right. I forgot to say that when I was pulling it off. I'm going to get a full alignment since I'm replacing everything on this. So I put it back close to where it originally was, but since I'm just going to get an entire alignment, I'm not really super worried about it. But if you guys are trying to get by without doing that, you can go ahead and mark where these points are, and your control arm should go back in the same spot. So now let's go ahead and assemble that knuckle, and then we can put all the brakes and everything back on, and that should be it, and we can lower this thing back down. All right, well, we're clearing off our table, and that means that we have a lot of parts on the truck. So what we're gonna do now is assemble the wheel knuckle and the wheel bearing, so that way we can put all this stuff together, and everything should be new under the C60. Pads and rotors, these don't look too bad. Probably gonna just run them for now. The calipers don't look like they're in the best shape. I'm gonna try to order some, but we're probably not gonna be here by the time I get this video up. So we may have to go back whenever we swap our steering rack out and swap them out. But we are going to try to assemble all this stuff, and then we can throw it on the truck and finally get this thing done. So pretty simple. This is a 2-wheel drive truck, so there's only 3 bolts that hold the wheel bearing on. These are kind of tight to get on there, which is good because you don't want these to come off, that's for sure. So basically you just line this up, and then we can get our bolts started. I got new hardware for these. Tighten this thing down, and we should be good to go with putting this assembly on the rig. All right, so now I'm just gonna throw on my rotor and our caliper bracket, and that'll be it. All right, and just like that, we have our two knuckles assembled, ready to go back on the truck. We also have our sway bar mounts that we're going to throw on there as well. All new bushings in that. And that should be it. Like I said, I'm going to replace that whole rack and pinion, so I'll probably end up putting all the rest of the stuff on when I get that in. Kind of just waiting on parts. It's still snowy outside and everything's kind of getting delayed, but I am trying my best. So we're going to throw this stuff on, lower it down, and we can finally see what we got for wheels. All right, so now all we got to do is throw this on. These things are heavy. There's a reason I called it the heavy Chevy. So we are going to throw this on and lower it down and finally see our wheels. I hope you guys know how hard it was for me to do the suspension before I put the wheels on. I've been dying to see this thing on some cool wheels, and I had to get this done first, and hopefully it's working. That's on there. Got to tighten everything down, put the sway bar links in, and lower it down. Alright guys, well, we finally knocked out our front suspension on the C60. A lot of work going into the front end of this thing, but I want to make sure it's dialed in so when we go on a road trip we have no suspension issues and everything's nice and reliable. So we put on our max PD rod kit to completely rebuild the front end of this truck. So we got new ball joints, we got new control arms, upper and lower. We have new sway bar links, new tie rods, and then I also went out and got new wheel bearings and then new knuckles as well. So basically everything you can do to the front end is done besides brakes, which we'll probably end up tackling also. So that's it on the front suspension, and as of today making this video, that Max PD Rods kit is for sale for 200 bucks, and then you can go in the link description and get even more off of that front end kit. So if you guys are doing something very similar to this build, or you have a stock 1500 Silverado, go check that kit out. It's definitely worth money. So now is the moment we've all been waiting for. I'm dying to show you guys the wheels and tires we got for the C60. I think this is going to be the biggest change of the truck besides probably the bed that we're gonna do. So I'm really excited. I hope you guys like what we picked out. All right guys, so these are the wheels and tires that we picked out for the C60, and I am so stoked with the way that these came out. So a few weeks ago, I put up on my Instagram a poll of what color wheels you wanted to see on the C60. It was either black or white. Tried to make it as simple as possible, and 99% of you guys voted white. So we are going to put on these 22x9 Detroit steel wheels, and these have a 3-inch backspace. So these are really deep dished, which is exactly what I wanted. So if you guys saw the transport wheels on there, the offset was just all wrong. It wasn't really gonna work. The wheels were really sunk in. So I really wanted that deep dish so it fit in the wheel well. I wrapped them with some Bridgestone tires. These are 275 50/22s, and the reason I went with this tire size is because it's a little bit bigger than the tire size they were running on the other C10 with the transport wheels. It has a little bit more sidewall, so that way it'll ride a lot nicer. And this is actually what comes stock on like an Escalade or something. So if we ever have a blowout in the middle of nowhere, you should be able to find this size tire and hopefully not have an issue. So that is what we're going to be running on the C60. We went ahead and Detroit Steel Wheels sent us these wheels raw. So at the big shop where I work, we went ahead and powder coated these wheels white. And we went with like an off-white color because I'm trying to match the bumper color, the trim, trying to make it a little bit more vintage looking than just a straight white. So I thought this would look pretty nice. And another awesome thing that Detroit Steel Wheel does is offer these hubcaps. So they actually pre-drill the center of the wheel. They come with little clips, you can screw them in, and they sell these hubcaps on their website, and you can go ahead and clip on your Chevrolet hubcap or Ford or whatever truck that you're going to do. I think the hubcap really sets it off, makes it look really nice, and I can't wait to see what these are gonna look like on the C60. Once again, big thank you to Detroit Steel Wheels. These guys are awesome. We try to run their wheels on as much stuff as we can. The Sasquatch has Detroit Steel Wheels also, and we're really happy with them. And they also sponsor our Patina Party Car Show. So if you guys are in the area on August 10th, we're having our Patina Party Car Show where we have drag racing, we'll have vendors, we'll have a swap meet, just a bunch of awesome patina cars, and any other hot rod that wants to come is invited to just hang out with us, have a good time, and get some awesome trophies. Check out everybody's hot rod, and you will see the C60 there this year. So super stoked to be running Detroit Steel Wheels. Let's get these things on the truck and see how it looks. All right, moment of truth. Hopefully we have no fitment issues. I was a little nervous because the offset is pretty aggressive, but I think we have enough room in this big truck to be able to fit these things. All right, looks good. This thing is gonna be so cool. Let me get the hubcap and it will be done. This is the cherry on top. That looks awesome. Super happy with that. And we got all new suspension to back it up. So let me get all the rest of the wheels on there. I'm gonna push it outside. You can finally see what this thing is gonna look like. All right, guys, well, we got that suspension tackled. We have the new wheels on the truck, and pushing it outside and seeing it, stepping back for the first time in a long time with the wheels, the height, it just looks so good, guys. When I first saw this truck, this is exactly what I envisioned, and I hope you guys like it. I think this thing looks absolutely killer. My driveway is still all ice, so try not to slip, but boom, that is what the C60 looks like. I am really happy with the way that this thing is coming together. Stock Silverado with a C60 body on it. Sounds kind of weird, but when you see it in person, it looks really cool. So you can kind of see that the wheel wells are nicely filled in with those tires, and then putting the back wheels on actually makes the truck look not as long as it normally does with the little tiny wheels on it. I think it really brings the front and the back together. It kind of was disconnected because it doesn't have a bed on it, but I think it looks a lot better now. So comment down below. I am still kind of torn on what we should do for a bed. What I'm probably going to do for now is use that bed, which is the bed that came on it, and chop it down and then put that on the back of the C60. That's kind of what I'm thinking right now, just to save some money, and I already have it. We can always change the bed up later. It's one of the easiest things to pull off. So we'll have to see, but the reason I want to try to do a flatbed, and I see a lot of guys commenting about doing like an 8-foot bed, is it's actually an extended cab truck, so it's a little bit longer than a regular flatbed is. It's actually 10 feet long, so doing a flatbed would kind of make it look more proportional to what it did originally. I also think doing like a utility bed on it would be kind of cool, but comment down below what you guys think. Probably just going to do the flatbed for now, and then we can change it up later. But now we have the wheels and tires, so definitely getting me motivation to do the bed and everything else. We got to hold off on that for a little bit because we have quite a bit more stuff to go. But I'm really happy with the way this thing's looking. The wheel fitment is absolutely perfect. If you can see, it comes right to the edge of that fender. Doesn't poke or anything, nicely tucked in there. I got the offset really good. Detroit Steel Wheels again. the big help on this project in trying to pick out wheel sizes and stuff. The back wheel is the same. I really like the wider offset. I think it's gonna look a little bit more like a dual. You'll probably fill out the wheel well a little bit better. We have our bumper mounted. Our engine bay is freshly painted. This thing is starting to look like a real truck again. So man, it's really coming together. And honestly guys, doing this project really isn't that bad. I mean, it's just me in my garage on some weekends putting this thing together. Not really slaving over it. It's actually really fun to build, and it's really not that complicated to do it. If you can basic weld and use an angle grinder, you could probably build one of these in your garage. Since we have the hood open, and I want to put this at the end of the video, we're going to try to do an engine management program on this, which is a little bit different than I was thinking originally. So originally we're going to use the stock computer and try to make that work, which is fine. We did that in the Buick, and I want to try to do something a little bit different on this. So make sure you stay tuned so you can see how we're going to actually wire this truck. I want to kind of do it very similarly to my 68 C10 because I had a ton of guys comment about how to wire it, what factory wiring harness do you use, and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to go through all of the wiring in one video so that way you guys have it if you guys are doing something similar to this. But that's going to do it. The C60 looks awesome. I am really happy, like I said, and I think this thing is going to be one of the coolest, easiest builds that we've done on the channel. But all that talking out of the way, I hope you guys like how this truck is coming out. If you guys want to stay up to date on all the episodes, make sure you follow us on Instagram and Facebook as well. I try to put a little bit more behind the scenes stuff on Instagram and Facebook, so that way you guys are engaged and can see what I'm working on, because it's a lot to get a YouTube video out every single week. So make sure you stay on those platforms as well. Thanks for watching, guys. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe so you can stay up to date with all the projects we have here on Rustomod, and we'll see you guys in the next one.